Welcome to Buddhist Motivation, where we embark on a journey of self-discovery and enlightenment. Today's exploration is titled Beyond the Self, a journey through consciousness, reality, and Buddhist teachings. In this video, we'll dive into the intriguing relationship between consciousness, reality, and Buddhist philosophy. This journey will not only challenge the boundaries of our understanding, but also offer insights into how the self, ego, and interconnectedness shape the world we experience. As we explore profound ideas from both quantum physics and Buddhist wisdom, we'll begin to question the very nature of our existence, and whether the self is truly as fixed as it appears. Are we merely passive observers of the world? Or do we play an active role in the creation of our reality? How do Buddhist teachings on the nature of consciousness and non-self intertwine with the fascinating discoveries of modern science? Before we begin, I'd like to ask you to take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Buddhist Motivation. Your support is the driving force behind this channel. And please, share your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback is invaluable, and it motivates me to keep creating more insightful and inspiring content. Now, let's dive into today's journey of consciousness. Have you ever stopped to wonder what reality really is? What if I told you that the reality you see around you, the world you interact with every day, might not be as fixed and solid as it appears? What if the very nature of reality depends on the way we observe it? This concept, which seems almost paradoxical, has been a central theme in both modern physics and ancient Buddhist philosophy. The idea that consciousness is not just a passive observer of the world, but a participatory force in shaping it challenges our fundamental understanding of existence. In this journey of self-reflection and discovery, we'll delve into the profound insights offered by Carl Jung and the quantum physicists who have dared to challenge the very nature of reality. Along the way, we will explore how these ideas resonate with Buddhist teachings on consciousness, interconnectedness, and the illusory nature of the self. The nature of reality and the role of consciousness. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, made several profound observations about the nature of consciousness. According to Jung, the ego, what we commonly think of as our self, is only a small island in the vast ocean of consciousness. Our perception of the world is not the full picture. It is filtered through the lens of the ego, which distorts and limits our understanding. In Buddhism, this aligns closely with the teachings of Enlightenment, or non-self. The idea that there is no permanent, unchanging self echoes Jung's notion of the ego being just a fragment of a much larger, interconnected consciousness. Both Jung and Buddhist philosophy suggest that our sense of individual identity is an illusion. Just as Jung viewed the ego as a fragment, Buddhism teaches that the self we identify with is an illusion, a product of our conditioned minds. But what if this self is more than just an illusion? What if it is also the key to understanding the true nature of reality? The quantum paradox. Quantum physics has given us a new lens through which to view the world. In the early 20th century, physicists like Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr began to unravel the mysteries of the microscopic world. They discovered that at the quantum level, particles do not behave as we expect them to. They exist in a state of probability, a cloud of potential until they are observed. This idea was most famously demonstrated in a double-slit experiment, where particles like electrons behave as waves when unobserved, but collapse into defined positions when measured. This observer effect suggests that the very act of observation influences reality itself. In other words, the world we experience is not fixed or objective, but rather dependent on how we observe it. The simple act of looking at something changes its behavior. This aligns closely with the Buddhist concept of emptiness, shunyata, which teaches that all phenomena lack inherent, independent existence. Things are not what they appear to be. They are empty of a fixed nature, dependent on the observer and the context in which they arise. Jung's concept of the collective unconscious also comes into play here. If we understand consciousness as a vast, interconnected field, then the reality we experience is not just individual but shared. Just as particles collapse into form upon being observed, our collective consciousness may also shape the reality we experience both individually and collectively. The illusion of the ego and the interconnectedness of all things. One of the most striking elements of both quantum physics and Buddhist philosophy is the idea that reality is interconnected. Quantum entanglement, a phenomenon where particles separated by vast distances remain mysteriously linked, suggests that the universe is not made up of isolated parts, but rather of interconnected relationships. Similarly, Buddhism teaches that all beings are interconnected through the law of interdependence, pratyasamutpita. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything is part of a vast web of relationships, each influencing and shaping the other. Jung's notion that the ego is just a small fragment of consciousness mirrors this idea. The ego creates a false sense of separation, making us believe that we are isolated, independent entities. But in reality, we are all part of the same universal consciousness. This is the essence of Buddhist teachings on the interconnectedness of all things. When we begin to see beyond the ego and recognize our interconnectedness with all beings, we start to dissolve the boundaries between self and other. This realization leads to a profound sense of compassion and empathy, as we recognize that others, too, are simply manifestations of the same consciousness, sound, and the awareness of reality. There is a term, sound, that has been used to describe the sudden realization of the interconnectedness of all things. It refers to the brief but powerful moment when we become acutely aware of the complexity of others' lives. You may have experienced this sensation while walking through a crowd, noticing that each person around you is living their own rich and unique story, one that is just as complex and meaningful as your own. This sudden awareness is a shock to the ego. It shatters the illusion of the singular, linear narrative of our lives and opens us to the infinite possibilities that exist in every other person's experience. It's a glimpse into the vast, interconnected nature of consciousness. Jung might describe this moment as a fleeting glimpse into the collective unconscious, where the boundaries of the individual self dissolve, and we are momentarily connected to the larger whole. In Buddhism, this realization is akin to enlightenment, seeing the world as it truly is, without the distortions of the ego. The moment we shift our awareness from the external world to the internal observer, we begin to glimpse the true nature of reality, the cosmic dance. Both quantum physics And Buddhism suggests that we are not passive observers of the world, but active participants in the creation of reality. In quantum mechanics, the act of measurement collapses the wave of possibility into a specific outcome. In Buddhism, the concept of karma teaches that our actions, thoughts, and intentions shape the reality we experience. As conscious beings, we are not isolated from the universe. We are an integral part of it. Every thought, every intention, every action has an impact on the world around us. This is the essence of the law of interdependence, the idea that all things are connected, and our actions reverberate through the web of existence. The teachings of Carl Jung, the insights of quantum physics, and the wisdom of Buddhism all point to a fundamental truth. Reality is not as fixed and objective as it appears. It is shaped by our consciousness, our perceptions, and our interconnectedness with the world around us. The ego, the illusion of the self, is just one small part of a much larger, interconnected consciousness that we share with all beings. As we awaken to this truth, we begin to dissolve the boundaries between ourselves and others. We realize that we are not isolated entities but part of a vast, cosmic dance, where every thought and action plays a role in shaping the reality we experience. This awakening, whether through quantum physics, Jungian psychology, or Buddhist teachings, leads us to a deeper understanding of our place in the universe. And so, as we continue to explore the nature of consciousness, let us remember that we are not just observers of the world, but active participants in its creation. The reality we experience is not fixed, it is a living, breathing tapestry that we co-create with every thought, every intention, every action. By embracing this interconnectedness, we open ourselves to the possibility of profound transformation. We awaken to the truth that we are not separate from the world around us, but an integral part of it. And in that realization, we find freedom, compassion, and a deeper connection to all beings. As we reach the end of this exploration into consciousness, reality, and the teachings of Buddhism, I hope you've gained new perspectives on how the self, ego, and the interconnectedness of all beings shape the world we live in. The journey of understanding is ongoing, and there is always more to uncover. I encourage you to continue questioning, reflecting, and exploring, because the answers are not fixed, but evolve as we grow. As we look beyond the self, we realize that we are all part of something far greater, something interconnected with all life. Thank you for joining me on this transformative journey today. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Buddhist Motivation for more content like this. And leave your thoughts in the comments. What resonated with you most from today's discussion? I can't wait to continue this exploration with you in future videos, where we'll uncover even deeper insights into the nature of life, consciousness, and the Buddhist path. Until next time, stay curious and keep reflecting on the vastness of your own consciousness.